If you're experiencing this issue, it's because your computer or boot system is corrupted. There is a problem with your BIOS or UEFI components. In case you didn't already know, the term boot in computer terminology is the process of loading the initial program into a computer memory to initialize a computer or device. When you turn on your computer and press the power button on a computer, it performs a series of checks and go through several steps to successfully put everything together and put your complex system into a complete workable unit. In this video, I will show you ways that you can use to load the operating system manually directly from the command line using the grub interface to boot Windows machines or Unix-like operating systems. When you turn on the computer and press the power button, it first performs something called a power on self-test. The system performs a hardware checks and ensures that all the components like memory, CPU, and storage are functioning correctly. The firmware, the BIOS, UEFI initialization then take place. You can enter the BIOS settings depending on your computer. In the case, you can click on the F2 button on your keyboard. UEFI stands for Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. It is the same as the BIOS, but it's a little bit more advanced. As you can see here, in this case is the BIOS settings that I have here. BIOS stands for Basic Input and Output. It is the embedded firmware program on a motherboard that allows the user to change and configure the hardware and manage the system. As you can see here, the UEFI or BIOS can be selected on the boot section on the BIOS menu and can be configured depending on your computer's BIOS setting. And your computer might be different. If your computer has secure boot enabled, in order to load modules into the operating system directly from the command line, you'll need to go to the boot section here, and where it says secure boots, you have to disable it. You can click on delete, control, alternate, and then simultaneously, and it would reboot the operating system. And then you can click on F10 or F11 depending on your BIOS to boot from a device. The third step is the bootloader. The bootloader, like the Windows Bootloader Manager and the grub, will look for bootable media and devices to load the operating system to the computer memory, loading the OS, the kernel, into the computer. This is the grub bootloader, a popular open source bootloader for Unix-like operating system, including Linux. I will show you ways that you can use to load the operating system manually directly from the command line using the grub interface to boot Windows machines and Unix-like operating system. If you see this menu, you're probably familiar with it. This is the grub GNU Grand Unified Bootloader. You can press C on your keyboard to start typing command and enter the command line mode. You can type ls, which is short for list. This will show you all the partitions in your hard drive disk. As you can see, HD0 MSDOS1 is the Windows file partition. And now you need to load modules into the operating system. Now you need to install certain modules that are essential, that have essential components for booting an operating system. You can do that by typing the insmod command, insmod chain, insmod part underscore gpt, insmod fat, insmod normal, insmod search. And now with the chain loader command, you can specify the kernel file to load the operating system. For example, chain loader EF5 Microsoft boot, and this file called boot mgfw is the file containing the bootloader for Windows, the boot manager for Windows. And now you simply type boot, and it would, as you can see, it would install, loading the operating system, the Windows boot manager. And ta-da! As you can see, it booted into the Windows boot manager, and you can here navigate around and have other options. But for the sake of this video, let's just load the Windows. As you can see here, it put the Windows directly instead of the boot manager. Thank you for watching.